Welcome to the Week 11 recap of the NAIA Men's Volleyball Show. I'm joined here by Trent Bruns, the head men's volleyball coach at Arizona Christian University. Trent, you're going on what, year 4 there?
Yeah, this is fourth season right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you started as the assistant there and then made the transition to head. How did that talk to me about how that went and how you kind of got into that?
Yeah. So honestly, I was at a desk job for a little bit and I was like, man, this is terrible. So in the meantime, like I actually wasn't even an assistant now. I mean, technically I was, but I was a volunteer. I just had extra time in my hands. I was working like a night job and I was like, let me jump back in. And from there, I realized like, man, I want to get back into this. And at that time, the current head coach, they had some talent. They definitely had some talent. And he was kind of ready to make his transition. So it ended up just kind of being smooth and just kind of stepped up. And luckily, I obviously have some of the experience there. And that's kind of how the natural flow. So from volunteer to head.
Yep. I am being slightly interrupted by Isaac Seltzer here coming by.
Oh gosh, that guy.
Isaac? Hey, you can
Isaac,
jump in.
Come here.
We're making the weekly show. Welcome, Isaac Seltzer, opposite. Finished up Chapel coming by. So yeah, we're recording for the weekly YouTube show right now. So you're going to be on it. So
yeah,
welcome.
You're famous, Betty.
You're famous.
That's why I came by actually.
And so he heard about it. So you all good?
Okay, yeah.
All right, sounds good. We'll catch up later. We'll keep filming. All right, Trent, let's go into big games for the weekend. Isaac,
okay.
What was the big game of this weekend?
What was the big
for
game
you?
For me.
Yeah.
Our ACU match.
Playing ACU. All right, let's chat about the ACU match. What'd you think of ACU?
Yeah, come on and give me some of your impressions, pal.
What did you think personally of ACU this past weekend?
Just ACU.
Yeah, just ACU.
I thought they surprised a lot of the players on our team. I think they surprised a lot of the teams in GSAC. I mean, they upset Hope University. That was a great win.
We'll talk about that in a little bit. Yeah.
Really needed that one. It kind of it opened up your hopes to make the GSAC tournament.
Good pun there. Good pun.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you actually put up a really good fight against us. I think the first set we served well and your guys' passing broke down, but the second and third set you guys totally flipped and you're in system and you're finding Connor Monahan and he was putting balls away for you and we couldn't stop him. So
yeah. Connor played really well in the second set specifically. He started taking some big rips.
He did take some big rips.
Yeah, it's funny. I was telling them, I was like, hey, they're gonna put 4 hands on you. And my center took that as don't set him the ball. And I was like, no, I'm like, pal, you have to get him going. I realize that and I like it. I like the fact that you're thinking, but we also got to give him the ball, Yeah,
for sure.
So awesome. Well, I'll see you at practice. I'll swing by weights and we'll check in there. Sure. Cool. All right. So that was one game on the weekend. A couple more big games. Yeah. Guest appearance here. Last week I was doing it solo, and now this week we got 3 people stepping in. So I love it.
Growing.
Other games. Let's talk about GSAC. The other big game you guys had this weekend was your match against Hope International. And we had played Friday night. Us, Masters, and Hope went out to Phoenix. And we were playing Ottawa, and you guys were playing Hope. Mm-hmm. And we finished our Ottawa match, and we look up the scores and everything. We're like, wow, that looked honestly a little bit different than I expected. The box score was quite interesting. From just the outside perspective, looking at it. Give me a rundown of how that match went. Your guys' thoughts going into it. Obviously, that was a big win over a top 15 team from this past rating. Period. But talk to me about that match for your program.
No, I mean, I think, long story short with this is the 4th year at ACU, it's finally, a time where I have my recruits coming in, people that care about the game more. And so we knew it was a big game to win. And we were actually rather disappointed in our California trip. It was the trip that nothing's really seemed to be going too well. We could not pass the ball at your guys' place, and then we could not score to save our lives versus Hope. And I feel like it wasn't them doing a whole lot. I mean, they did a good job at, touching the ball. We were making some terrible shot selections. So we've kind of been looking forward to, playing them again and playing you guys again, and had a little bit of a chip on our shoulder with that. Now, we did a lot better because we are young, but we did a lot better at executing the game plan. I'm like, guys, please just find Cole Oliver. And let's make sure we slow down that guy. Obviously, you saw what was he had 32 kills versus Ottawa the next day or something like that in 4 sets.
Somewhere in the low 30s.
Dude, that guy is unreal. And so we did a good job at slowing him down at key times. Like I think we blocked him in the second set at 22-19, which was a big one. But they're also down. They're down a few guys too. They're down there starting opposite. And then they're back up opposite, left. For some reason that the coach was frustrated about. And then Julian Zavala, his brother was getting married. So they're down, a few of their pins. And so luckily we still took care of business. Obviously, we know at this level, anybody can beat anybody. And that's even said, like, we can obviously beat them and they could still beat Hope with what they have. And I think that's still a reason that they're a top 15 team. And I was talking to the coach too, and I actually don't think they've been healthy fully as a team yet and really have everybody. So the fact that they're still doing what they're doing is good, but it was a good one for us. We took care of business. We were consistent. We passed the ball well. We changed the lineup a little bit. I think that kind of served us well. And ultimately it was a huge win for us when it comes to the GSAC. Keeps our hopes alive of top 4, and it's good. It's a good time.
Yeah. So for GSAC, top 4 teams make our conference tournament. Yep. Right now in current standings, we just finished the start of the second half of the year. So we play the other 5 teams 2 times each, home and away for everyone. So you guys have 3 more matches as well.
Yeah.
Going into the end of the season. Who are your 3 matches against? So you guys got Ottawa this week. That's
Ottawa Wednesday. And then we got Benue, and then we got Park.
Benue and Park. Okay. Yeah. So you guys got to win. If you win 2 of them, you're definitely in.
Yeah. Right? I got to look at who Hope plays. I'm pretty sure I checked it out. But if we beat Ottawa, obviously we're tied in our record right now for the GSAC. So that gives us the upper hand since they went 0-2 to Hope and we're 1-1 at Hope. And so
what was the head-to-head against them? Did you guys beat them? Or you guys lost them the first
We lost them first night.
In how many sets?
We lost in 4.
Okay.
And so we're tied right now. So if we beat them, and since we beat Hope, we'll technically be, a better record than they will. But interestingly enough, I do think, if my calculations are right here, if we end up winning out and win all the way through, and then, Hope loses, to you guys, to Benue, and they lose out, we'll actually take 3rd. I think head to head goes, it doesn't go head to head. I think I sent you that list on the plane that one time. It says, it's very interesting on how the breakdown works,
with
if
the
2 teams
tiebreakers.
How the tiebreakers work. So since we beat Hope and they beat us, we're 1-1. Then they go from the top of the list down, who has the best record. So if we end up beating Benue and they never beat Benue, technically we would head in front of them. So I think that rule, in my mind, is a little bit dicey and maybe should change. I don't know how consistent that is across other sports, but it's kind of interesting to me.
I always thought it went down to sets. Your set record now.
I emailed Mike Daniels about it, and that's not the case anymore. I don't know if it's anymore
and Mike
or
Daniels
if it never
is the commissioner of the GSAC for those watching.
Yeah.
So that's a very interesting tiebreaker procedure, and we haven't really run into that much in the last couple of years. It's always a question in the last couple of weeks leading into
correct
the end of season, as you're saying, hey, if this happens, this could make things very interesting. But we haven't really dealt with that too much as an issue in the last couple of years. The other interesting change for this year for GSAC tournament is we are playing, instead of all one site, we are playing at 2 different sites, and the top seed is hosting, right? And so we play semifinals on like the Monday and the finals on the Thursday in the week before Easter. And so 1 will play 4, hosting at the 1 seed, and then 2 will play 3, hosting at the 2 seed. I'm not sure if there's an upset 4/1, if that 4 would host the second round or the finals, or if they would just keep the seeding. That would be an interesting question as well. So we'll see if it comes down to that and figure out what that looks like come conference tournament. Let's move on to talk a little bit about some other areas of the country this past week. Some other big games. St. Xavier actually had 2 big games on the weekend. They beat Olivet Nazarene, who you guys played earlier. Or you guys played
We
earlier
didn't play
this season,
Olivet.
right?
No, yeah.
Oh no. We
That was
did, and Hope did twice.
Hope
That's
played
what
them,
I'm
yeah.
thinking. And then St. X played Lawrence Tech as well. That was a top 5 matchup. St. Xavier kind of first set was close, but then kind of rolled through them.
And was it like 16 and 18 or something like that?
I think it was 18 and like 13. Third
bad,
set
yeah.
was not even really close at all.
Yeah.
So St. Xavier looks like they're playing very well right now. I'm fascinated to see how, as we get to the end of the year with all of our teams, as you talked about specifically with Hope, like how healthy we are, how we're playing going into the very end. But St. Xavier is certainly looking like they're playing well at this moment. They had that match against Lawrence Tech circled on their calendar, I'm sure, is a big one.
Yeah.
As they play a lot of other teams in their conference, that they're kind of just rolling through and not getting pushed too much. They knew they would get pushed a little bit more from Lawrence Tech, stepped up, played very well, and took that match in 3. Other matches from this past week, Cornerstone in that same conference beat Indiana Tech. And the big matchup from the Heart of America Conference was MOBAP beating Park, Missouri in 5. Did you watch any of that match at all? Or are you following the Heart teams at all?
I haven't watched that yet. I did watch a few matches early on of Park, and I thought they looked, pretty solid.
Were you watching with their starting opposite, or was he out? Because he was out for about a month and a half, and that changes that team quite a bit.
Yeah, was that early on then? He wasn't in?
Yeah, I think he got hurt like that second weekend or something like that.
Okay. He might have been in. I'm not sure. But from my understanding, with that team is that I feel like they always get a good amount of international players.
Yep.
And when they get going, they get going.
Yeah.
And so it is it can be very tough to stop them at times, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is a team that, they're a little bit lower in terms of their ranking in the Heart of America. I think they have 4 losses right now, but all 4 of those matches are in 5 sets. So they're playing teams very close. They've pulled off 1 or 2 bigger upsets. Their match early in the year, their opening weekend against St. Thomas, is looking better and better. Right? Yeah. If you're comparing conferences, St. Thomas is a 1-loss team right now.
Yeah.
As much as they haven't been pushed in their schedule quite as much, Park actually benefits quite a bit from beating a team that's a 1-loss team, and they're the 1 loss.
Yeah.
So we'll see going into the end of the year, going into the last couple of weeks of the Heart Conference regular season schedule, and then going into the tournament, what that looks like.
Yeah.
And seeing, can they make the national tournament? Can they do it as an automatic bid? Can they win their conference tournament? Or, they're a team that should be in the conversation. I'm sure will be in the conversation for an at-large bid if it comes to that as well. As they've played a pretty good schedule and won a lot of games as well. They could be a dangerous team if they're healthy come the national championship as well.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about that too, as far as the consistency of teams after, the top 5 or 7, and it's very interesting. Anybody can beat anybody. Good example is Ottawa beating Cornerstone in 3. Didn't even take a set off of them. It's things can be a surprise. So the fact that even though they have a few losses, those losses are battles. It does speak, to some of their culture. Like our losses, like sometimes I feel like we don't even show up, and it's like, what's happening? So some of that consistency, I think, will go a long way. And so that definitely shows that they, have what it takes to compete with some of the highest teams there for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So there weren't as many, I would say, big matchups this past week.
No.
But looking into this next week, there are a number of higher profile games going on. Both in the Heart, out on the West Coast, even in the AAC this week. And so I'll read off a list of games that I was kind of circling on my calendar, and you can get an opportunity to talk about a couple of them. But Grandview is actually going to Park, right? That's another big battle in the Heart of America. I hear those coaches talking all the time about home court advantage and how hard it is to win on the road there. Grandview is going to Park, so Park has that home field advantage, home court advantage this week. Benedictine Mesa is coming out to get Southern California. They've got us, Masters, and Hope International this weekend. As of current standings, that is the number 1, 2, and 3 teams in the GSAC playing this weekend. So big matchups there. Park has a second interesting matchup at William Penn. William Penn has beaten the bottom teams in their conference, lost to most of the top teams in their conference, but does have one signature win over Grandview. So William Penn's probably looking for a couple more big wins to get themselves in the conversation for an at-large bid come to the end of the regular season. And that match against Park could be very interesting from that standpoint as well. We have Mount Mercy traveling to Missouri Valley. Missouri Valley sitting on top of the Heart of America Conference right now. And then a couple of AAC matches with Reinhardt going to St. Thomas. That's currently the number 1 and 2 in the AAC. And then Reinhardt going to Weber International. I think that's the number 1 and 3 or 2 and 3 in the AAC as well. And then you've got another big matchup this weekend talking about GSAC national or GSAC regular season tournament considerations. You guys going over to Ottawa. Right now, you guys are tied in the rankings at number 4 and 5, and top 4 make it. So I'm sure that's the big one circled on your calendar right now.
Yep, I've been thinking about that since our win versus Hope. So yeah. But
so you overlooked us, is what you're saying?
No, I mean, I'm using everything as motivation for the guys. That's for sure. So, and that'll be, I mean, not to just graze back to our stuff, but that'll be an interesting game because so many of our guys know each other, like a few of those guys, they played on each other's clubs team together. Like they all played on my team. And so there's not going to be a lot of fear or intimidation, even though they're young, because they know each other. So I think it should be very interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's what it comes down to in these rivalry games, these conference games, right? You guys know each other very well. Teams are close. Coaches, you guys, Wellington, well, the players all know each other. You guys are located pretty close. They have that in every conference. Some of these conferences, the Heart teams have a bunch of international guys. All those international guys know each other. Right? They have all played against each other before. So,
I mean, I'll just think about that too. The Grandview at Park will be interesting. The fact that William Penn came into Grandview and beat Grandview at their place was interesting. When we started to get a little bit chirpy with them, I feel like they, kind of wanted to battle back.
That was William Penn, right? You guys?
No, sorry. When we got a little bit chirpy with Grandview, they wanted to battle back, and they showed some good fight there, and so that'll be a very interesting game with that Grandview at Park. I do think the home court advantage at Park has been legendary since forever, since Cal Baptist had an NAIA team back in the day. I still remember watching games and it was at Park over there, and it's in that weird looking gym that they have. I've never been there yet, but it looks weird just from watching the film and stuff. And so that'll be a tough game for Grandview, but I'm very interested to see how it turns out.
And Park is honestly known for being a pretty chirpy team.
Yeah, 100%. Right? They were very chirpy when they came to our gym.
That's the reputation. That's who they are. They've got those guys. They're competitors and chirpers, and that can always, when they're doing that to someone, the other person either folds or they step up their level even higher. And so it's always interesting to see as they do that what happens on the flip side of it. I think there's some guys that it's beneficial to do that against, and other guys it's like you kind of want to butter them up and soften them up and just say, hey, you're really good, and trying to get them to not compete as hard. So always interesting. Looking forward to seeing those matchups this week.
That'll be interesting. And then how you feel about Ben U coming to you guys? Where you guys at with that?
I mean, I recognize that is a very, very talented team. They've got 2 guys that can really beat you on any given night, right? That's Dupree Rogers and Landon Fuller. So far this year, Dupree has been carrying a little bit more of the load offensively, just in terms of volume. He's the guy that can go off on any given night. And then Fuller has been a player who's in previous years, other than last year where he was hurt, he's been in consideration for National Player of the Year. He's a very talented guy, has been a little bit up and down. You know, he's had matches where he's hit 500-600 this year, and then matches where he hasn't made that big of a factor.
Yeah.
And so you've got kind of got a two-headed beast in their offense, and the question is, can you slow both of them down, and or if one goes off, can you do well enough in other areas to take care of them? We beat them at their place. Was this about a month ago? We kind of handled the serve and pass side. We had a really good serving day, and that put some pressure on them.
Yeah, you guys served good versus us too. You guys only missed 14. You're
ripping. And the answer is it's hard to rely on being a really good serving team. Being a good serving team helps a ton when it's on.
Sure.
But every night you're not going to be on. And to me, that's the big question going into every single match. You're like, is this a good serving night or is it not?
Yeah.
Because if it's a good serving night, we can handle a lot of teams.
Yeah.
If we're either missing or, you know, we miss and then start going easier,
take it back down.
Sudden, the dynamic of the game can change like that.
Yeah.
Right. And we have found that a lot just between sets this year. Right. One set, we're serving really well, putting a ton of pressure, can blow a team out. And then the very next set, we start first couple servers, miss a serve, and all of a sudden it's a close game. We're down a couple. Like the dynamic changes like that.
Yeah.
Right. We get not as competitive and can back down very easily. And so, I mean, yes, Ben U is a very talented team. I think the question is how we come out, how we serve and pass, what that looks like.
I think that if Fuller decides that he really wants to beat you guys, because here's the thing I've noticed about Fuller is, he's been there a long time. And by year 4,
I think he's a 6th-year player.
Dude,
right
every
now.
time I see him, I make a joke. I'm like, you know, and then we start laughing, you know, because we've been around each other for a long time now. But he's pretty drained. I was drained after 4 years. Yeah. And so for him, it's always been a matter of like kind of being able to find it within himself. And if you watch them, him and Dupree, like they're together. Like they're the guys that are like, hey, we need to stick together type of thing. And Dupree is normally the one that's kind of trying to help motivate and be there for Landon. But what I've noticed with Landon is that his service pressure is not anything what it used to be. You know, he's kind of doing this little float thing and this hybrid thing, but he used to be ripping those things, you know. And so you combined, you know, and this is also a talk that, you know, Matt August is not there right now, and that'll be interesting to see what it looks like with the other coach coming in and stuff. Or I don't know. I know it's Grant, the assistant coach, was there when he came for us. I don't know the situation there, but I'm not sure if they'll respond good, if they'll respond bad with that. But I do think it comes down to how much they want it. And I think if you guys get on top of them early, there's going to be a chance that they just shut down.
And that's where, yes, this match this weekend matters. But that's where Ben U is a very dangerous team come conference tournament and national tournament if they're there, right? Yep. You can just kind of flip the switch a little bit, and you know these guys are super talented.
Yep.
They can take over some games.
Yep.
Right? These are guys that have been to 3 national championship finals.
Yep.
And have lost 3 in their freshman, sophomore, and junior years.
Yep.
And so there's a reason why they came back for this year.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not going to say they don't care about the regular season, but they didn't come back to play for this match this weekend. They came back to play for these matches at the end of the year. Right. That's what they want. That's what a lot of guys want. Right. A lot of these top teams all have the goal saying, hey, how do we win a national championship?
Yep.
And there's a lot of guys with a lot of experience. Right. St. Xavier's in that same boat. They've got a number of older guys. Matt Pinalla, right? He's there because he wants to win a national championship.
Yeah,
for sure. Right. And he's going to play really well at the end. So I think it's going to be a lot about just how teams get hot at the end, what that starts looking like. That was last year with Georgetown at the end. They were pretty good, okay throughout the year.
Yeah.
And they said, hey, we really want this thing. And they played really, really good volleyball at the end of the year. And so even as us and St. Xavier are undefeated right now, I think myself and Tom, the St. Xavier coach, realized like, hey, we could drop this too, right? We play a team that's hot and we're a little bit off. Like all of a sudden what you've been working for months, almost 12 months here since last year's season finished, could be over. Right. And it's all about playing really good volleyball at the end of the year. And so there's no guarantees. This whole regular season, has just been to get to the national tournament. Every team has that goal, and then once you're there, just playing good volleyball.
Yep.
And so I could see that going a lot of different ways. I know our program in St. X might be a favorite to match up late in that tournament, but there could easily be a situation that just another team is playing really good at the end.
Yep.
So
anybody can beat anybody.
Yes, very much. So,
yeah.
Last conversation. Let's turn this over to talk a little bit less about NAI and a little bit more about boys volleyball. You've been in Phoenix. You've been at ACU for 4 years. You've been in Phoenix for about 15, right?
Yeah.
It's been that long, right?
Yeah, it's very weird. Let's think about that the other day. It's like if you don't count college, when I moved back out here to train and then got my master's, that was 10 years ago. So
yeah.
Yeah,
I count college, and so you're 15. So
I mean it's just weird. Just put it that way.
Yeah, for those of you guys watching, me and Trent actually played together at GCU. And so we were
graduated together
back in the day. Yeah, we did graduate together. You are a year older than me. I just finished early.
I am.
But yeah, you've been in Phoenix for a long time. Talk to me about what boys volleyball is like in Phoenix, how you've seen that develop over the last 15 years. I mean, you're a Southern California guy. You came from kind of a hotbed area.
Yeah.
You're a Balboa Bay guy back in the day. So I know in your mind you're making those comparisons. But talk to me kind of how that's grown and what Phoenix volleyball, Arizona volleyball needs to continue its growth, as you guys have had some good players that come out of that area.
Yeah, I mean, Zach Rahm is a great one at UCLA, big guy.
Yeah.
So I think volleyball out here is obviously definitely getting better and more widespread. I think one of the biggest contributors to that happening is they're getting involved at younger ages. So I can remember when I was a player at Balboa, and we had this team from Arizona who would come in and be all rah-rah, and that was pretty much all they had, and now it's gone from that to being like, oh, we play Arizona Fear, oh, we play Aspire, like it's a more legitimate, thing. And some of that's because, again, they're getting involved at a younger age, right? Like Arizona Fear has a 12s team, and the club that I coach for is, does developmental stuff for 13s and 14s, so they're starting at a younger age, which is paying a lot of dividends to some of the IQ and talent. I'll tell you that right now I coach an 18s team, and they don't have some very basic fundamental knowledge of eye sequencing and how to identify stuff. So it frees them up for you. It's just follow the ball. Right. And so that's been some things, in Arizona that we've seen get a lot better over the years, is that they're starting at younger and younger ages. And so they're just better and better at volleyball. Typically out here, you play football, soccer, or basketball, and then you realize the coaches are just way too mean and they don't like the culture, and then they start by their junior year. And if those guys are talented, at junior year, then sure, they'll come out to be a good player, but we all know the next level up here is just tough. It's not, it's not easy, and some of those very small things separate. So it's definitely growing for sure. It's grown a lot since I've been here. And there's even like more high schools that are getting built out here. And the fact that when I was first here, there was only one college, right? And now there's what, 5? Yeah, 5 colleges that have.
We have 4 in the
volleyball?
GSAC that are in the Phoenix area.
Yeah, and so there's just a lot. People see a lot more opportunity, and it's just a lot more exposed out here. But it's also just getting better and better because they're starting earlier.
So there's the experience piece, but then there's also the just as a sport, volleyball, like we just want to be able to attract better and better athletes.
Yeah.
Right. You're looking at Zach Rama.
Yeah.
I don't know how long he's been playing, but phenomenal athlete.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sure with the population of Phoenix, there's a lot of athletes there. What sports are they playing, and what does Phoenix need in boys volleyball just culturally to get those athletes to say, hey, I want to play volleyball rather than soccer or basketball or football or whatever?
Yeah. I think some of it is just, I mean, right now the popular sports out here is going to be basketball, soccer, and football. Baseball is not as bad, but those are like the popular ones. And I think some of that's just because the sport is more popular nationwide. It's like how we don't have lacrosse out here. We have a lacrosse team, but lacrosse is really an East Coast thing. And so it's starting to grow out this direction, but we definitely need more junior highs to have some kind of programs. They don't have that, so there's not exposure at their school. I know one guy that just does it for volunteer. The education system out here is not the best. And so when it comes to funding and things like that, they don't have, maybe money to pay for a coach. There's even some high schools out here, like the Libero that I had, he didn't have a high school team. And so that's just,
he
gets more
played ball
evidence.
against us the other night.
Yeah, there's just not as much opportunity, out here. And so that starts with like some people take an initiative, but that initiative also takes a lot of sacrifice because there's not pay and things like that moving on. So if there's a little more educational system buy-in, I think it would allow people to get in sooner. And I think past that, some of it is volleyball is a very team-related IQ sport. And sometimes when you get a part of a team where the coach doesn't know what they're doing, that's another thing where maybe they will end up leaving because they don't like losing, right? And so there's a plethora of different things, but I just think exposure overall is some of the most important, that's going to be at the junior high level, tournaments and other things like that.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we can, us as like people that are in this full time, can continue to do a little bit better is coach education. Right, as we can develop better high school and youth coaches, they can give kids better experiences and get them to buy in earlier, especially the best athletes, and get them to buy in before basketball just wrangles them in and just holds them in there the whole time, for sure. So I've seen a ton of growth for sure in the Phoenix area. We've had 1 or 2 players come out of Phoenix. There's been a number of others I've recruited that are really good athletes, really good volleyball players. I mean, Troy's doing a great job with AZ Fear. That program has really developed over the last 10 years. I mean, I actually helped coach a 14-2s team when I was at GCU with Troy. And at that point, it wasn't what it is now.
Definitely.
And so I compare right now to back then when I was helping out a little bit as a player.
Good evidence is Jackson Herr was on my 14 team, and now he's a GCU center. So he actually played. I always give him crap about that and talk to his dad, and he goes, yeah, check out this picture, and he was playing middle for us, and his vertical was like this big, so we were all just laughing at it. But that early exposure is just
like my oh my how you've developed.
Yeah, I'm like, you want to come back this direction since, I started the roots with you, pal.
Yeah. But Trey Jordan is the other one at GCU right now. There's a local Phoenix guy. They got to stay local at GCU, right? Really good athlete, right? They've got some at GCU. And again, as we mentioned, Zach Rama from Phoenix going to UCLA. They've certainly had some really talented players in that pipeline come out of the Phoenix area. So hopefully
some of the challenge nowadays too is people take their sports so seriously that they're doing private lessons at 12, 13, and they experience burnout. And I think some of the hardest stuff when it comes to coaching club and high school is like, honestly, I would like my guys to play multiple sports, right? Like there's Ryan Lewis who's at Ball State. He's, used to be a pitcher, I believe. And so that's a great arm swing because of that stuff. And he's got a great arm and helps that he's 6'8", right? And so some of those multi-sport, it keeps the sport fun too when you actually get back to it. I think sometimes like basketball, they're just so heavily high strict that people just kind of get over it from time to time. So that's always the interesting balance of finding that seriousness, but partnering with, you still need to have some fun in the game.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, hey, I appreciate you taking the time to jump on this call today. I know you got your son napping, and I'm sure you have plenty of work to get ready for Ottawa this week. And so
Wednesday, baby.
Good luck, and maybe I'll see you in the first round of the GSAC tournament in a couple weeks.
That'll be good.
All right, sounds good. Appreciate it.